who is here. He's the Consul General of Hungary, and he is joining us today. So thank you for being here.
Thanks to everybody for coming. I just want to say a few words to kick this off, and I promise to keep it short because you're going to see a really good documentary film that in a few minutes, and then you'll be able to ask Leslie questions. But I first met Leslie when he came here to Brookdale about 4 or 5 years ago, and I was just a spectator like you. I was sitting in the crowd watching him, but his story really affected me on a deep level, and since then we've become very close. I've written a book, helped him written his book. We've written articles. I've had stuff on my blog read by people all over the world. His story's been featured in Fox News and New York Times and all kinds of news organizations all over the world, literally. It's funny, I think we have more, this thing's going out. We have more people in other countries interested almost than we do here. But I think that for me, the really important point for you to keep in mind is it's really important to do these memorial services and to remember people who were murdered and to keep their names alive, to keep their memory alive. But I think when you study somebody like Leslie, you study the Holocaust, you study that time period in history, what you find is that it's really just as relevant to today as it was then. And I get a little upset sometimes. People say to us, they say negative things. Well, you know, the Holocaust, we've all heard it before, it's getting old now, and you know, there's no more stories to come out, there's been thousands of books, and you know, they get like impatient, and it really, you know, I try to be as charitable as possible, but I say, well, you know, if that's your attitude, you're really not looking close enough, because everything that you would learn by studying Leslie's life are all lessons that we need to apply today to all the problems that we have today, because we still have so many of the same attitude and so many of the same problems of hatred and violence and, you know, bigotry and racism and intolerance. You know, we wrote a blog piece called From Auschwitz to Ferguson, relating to some of the protests that were in this country about the police violence that was going on last year. And Leslie just, you know, sums everything up, gets right to the point. Well, it's just about not valuing human life. You know, you live in a society that decides some human lives are more valuable than others. And the ones who aren't as valuable, we can do anything we want to them. They have no rights, put them in jail, you know, do whatever, shoot them. It's a lot of the same attitudes, and I think that what I get and why I think that this study of the Holocaust is so important is because you realize that every life matters, every story is important, everybody's, you know, opportunity to exist on this planet and have a chance to live is vitally important. And I think that's validated when you hear of so many new stories keep coming up from World War II, from the Holocaust. And you say, wow, that's an amazing story. And then the next day, another story comes up. And it just keeps coming because that really validates the point that every single life is important and every story is worth listening to. And I think that's the real takeaway message from all this. It's fine, again, when we should have memorials, we should have remembrance, but don't just leave it at that. Say, hey, what can I take from his story today that I can use? You know, I'm having an argument with someone, or I have a problem with someone. How can I use this wisdom that Leslie's offering to solve that problem? I think that if you really apply a lot of these lessons, you'll see that it can help. It can help with a lot of stuff that we're still going through, because that's what it's really about. It's about the value of each individual life. And certainly the great lie of that time period with the fascistic governments was that people don't matter. And you know, when Leslie, he could tell you stories when he was an adolescent right before being sent to Auschwitz. They were, you know, chipping away at their self-esteem with hateful propaganda, telling them you're nothing, you're nothing, you're nothing. And when you're a young person, that really gets to you. I mean, it gets to you at any age, but when you're 12 years old, 13, it really affects you. And that's the great lie that I think is still floating around, that some people, they allow you to believe that some members of the population are not as important as others. And as I said, you could really look at this country, and I think it's scary. You could see a lot of parallels to some of the ideas that were going around in Germany in the 1930s, that we just have this incredible expansion of our prison population, and we're looking at whole segments of our population. We're saying they don't matter. You're not really important. Your life doesn't matter. And I think that's the real message. You want to cherish every single person, every story. So with that in mind, I just want to tell you, his story has impacted me personally. It's changed everything I do. Every relationship I have, I really view it in this lens of having understood what he went through. So I think it's really important, but don't think of it as something dead, something in the past, old history, because it's not. And you're fortunate enough to still have survivors with you, so listen to them, ask them questions. At the end of the film, ask Leslie some questions, you get a real opportunity to talk to him directly, which is a real blessing. So that's all I wanted to say. I want to introduce Dr. Kumin, the Hungarian Consul General. He came all the way down from New York trying to find our campus, driving around. And I think his presence here really speaks to a spirit that's going on in Hungary today, where they want to mend, they want to heal, they want to find ways of bridging this gap that's been going on for so long in history, where they want to have a spirit of reconciliation, and they want to move forward. Because Leslie has certainly experienced that in Germany. Most of his story is about all the healing that's happened to him in Germany. And the German government and the education system there is incredibly progressive, one of the best in the world. And I think it's a real testament to Hungary that the Consul General is here. It was important enough to him to be here because Hungary wants to have that same spirit and they want to move forward. And I realize, that's a little controversial for some people, and that's okay. When Leslie speaks fondly of Germany, people say, well, wait, you're a survivor and you're speaking fondly of Germany? But he's saying, hey, these are the people I've met. These are the, it's removed. It's one generation, 2 generations, 3 generations past, but they want to have healing, and they want to find a way to move forward to have a good future. So I think that should be applauded. I don't think people should look at it with skepticism and say, why are the Germans involved? Well, they have to move forward. So in that light, I want you to welcome Dr. Kumin. I think he wants to say a few words, and then Leslie will say a few words, and we'll have our film.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Actually, I wasn't prepared for a speech, so it's really something that came into my mind immediately as I was here. I'm really thrilled to be here with Leslie. This is our second time together, performing together for a larger audience like yours. The first time was in New York at our Consulate General. It's just, you rightly pointed out, our goal is to somehow talk about what happened in Hungary. Hungary is a small country in Central Europe, but it had a very dramatic and very tragic chunk in the history of the whole Holocaust. If you study this period, you will knock into this story. You will have lots of difficulties to understand how was it possible by the end of the Second World War. We're talking about spring of '44, really approaching the final defeat of the Germans and the Third Reich. How it was possible that Jews could survive for such a long time, the Holocaust, and in a matter of just a couple of months, they were transported massively to Auschwitz, and they all, or many of them, the majority of them, had to die there. And so in Hungary, we almost completely lost the countryside Jewry and many of the Budapest Jews as well. Budapest was the only place where Hungarian Jews could survive, because that was the last place to be appointed as deportation sites for the Hungarian Jews. So we have lots of reasons for healing, as you pointed out. We had in Hungary more difficulties to start this healing procedure. Unlike the Germans, who had the, I wouldn't say luxury, but luck to live in a relatively free world after the Second World War, at least the western part of Germany, Hungary was suffering under another totalitarian system, communism, and it took for us 40 more years to get rid of this other totalitarian system, and that was the period when we could start to digest somehow what happened with us and what was our role in what happened during the Second World War to the Hungarian Jews, to our compatriots who we lost in unbelievable huge numbers. The estimations are between 500,000 and 600,000 people of a country of 10 million. So you can imagine the amount of the loss. But just to finish with something positive, something optimistic, many of the Hungarian Jews, they're very tight and very traditional communities, ended up here in the US, in New York, in Brooklyn, for example. You find neighborhoods in Brooklyn where if you start to talk Hungarian, quite likely they will understand you. Orthodox Jews, we talk about Hasidic Jews, we're talking about from certain parts of the neighborhood from where actually Leslie is coming from. This is the northeastern side of Hungary right now. And they have a flourishing Jewish Hungarian culture still alive and with us in Brooklyn. For me, it was an amazing discovery just recently to be their guests and to see how these traditions are still with them. And what I can also tell you that hatred is, or the willingness of revenge is not around anymore. I guess it's the third generations after the Second World War who are now able to turn to each other, talk about what has happened without anything, without any intention to whitewash what has happened, without any intention to get rid of the responsibility, but to turn to each other again and to start a new chapter with each other. And I guess what Leslie can do with us and what Leslie's story can help with us, for us to understand what has happened, that works for us, and this healing procedure is speeded up by all of these encounters with him. So please welcome him today. And thank you so much for your attention.
Good afternoon. I am pleased to welcome all of you, my wife, Annette. I have some second cousins here. I would like to thank the Hungarian Consulate and Consul General Dr. Kumin for his attendance here today. And I think all the wonderful people at Brookdale Community College for inviting me back, especially Miss Dale Daniels of the Chang Center. Martin Luther King once wrote, "We are not makers of history. We are made by history." Truer words about my life have not been spoken. For me to speak to you today is of course an honor, but is also unimaginable, because if you are to see me at the age of 14, being taken away with my family in a cattle wagon headed for Auschwitz, where not only did I think I might never return to my village of Brookdale in Hungary, but I wondered if I would ever return to the place of the living, much less become a man who would one day speak to people who might actually want to hear what he has to say. In fact, at least 3 times before the age of 16, I should have died. I have been imprisoned, brutalized, starved, slaved, and shot. So there is no logical or plausible explanation as to why I stand here before you, except for the miraculous and defiant acts of kindness by a few people I encountered during my time in the camps. People who also happen to be German. And I would not be here today without them.
Hold the phone a little bit down.
Small,
Leslie, little down. It's too, you can understand.
small acts of love often hold great power. As a teenage survivor of Auschwitz, Dachau, and other subcamps of Dachau, including Mühldorf and the death train I was forced to ride in the last days of the war, you will soon learn much more about this form, the documentary film you are about to see. One would think that I have nothing but hatred for Germany and the German people. And that might have been the case if not for three particular Germans who defied the Nazi hatred with unbelievable kindness: Martin Fuß, Agnes Riesch, and Barbara Huber. Martin Fuß offered me encouragement, friendship, and liverwurst sandwich when I worked at the radio station in Karlsfeld near Allach. Agnes Riesch gave me bread, money, and her food voucher in Dachau. She addressed me as dear son Lazarus. In complete defiance of the SS God, I might add, they told her, if you keep this up, we will put you in here. She told them, I don't care, I'm old. They never touched her, by the way. And Barbara Huber, from the kitchen of her small farmhouse in Bavaria, reached out to me and three other ghostly survivors, nothing but skin and bones, barely alive, who had fled the death train during the Poing massacre, serving us the most delicious bread, butter, and milk I have ever tasted. Barbara Huber, like Agnes Riesch before her, considered me her son. An emaciated half the teenage Jewish concentration camp prisoner was also her son. I did not learn Barbara Huber's name for more than 65 years, but she, Martin Fuß, and Agnes Riesch never left my memory for one day. You see, when you are oppressed and put in that position of being on the receiving and quiet literary of genocide, it is very easy to hate the people that did this to you. And many people would say that hatred was entirely justified, even necessary to be returned in kind. But for me, that was not the case, because those three kind Germans put seeds of hope in my mind and love in my heart, showing me that all Germans were not the same. All three helped to save more than just my body, for nourishment is more than food, but thoughts and feelings too. The most importantly, they help keep me from the Nazi mindset of hatred. Just as so many people in Germany today have continued this legacy of love by linking my healing journey with their own. I can tell you, when you rescue the heart of a child, just as my heart was rescued all those years ago, in any similarly desperate circumstances, you save the life of the adult who will then carry for the rest of his or her life. Instead of a message of hate, a message of love, and one that will resonate and touch many other lives. In the last few years, I have come together with so many people from all over the world, for whom my story has found powerful resonance. In Germany, I have spoken at hundreds of high schools for the last 3 years as an honored guest in the country that once sought to exterminate me. Now I am honored, respected, acknowledged, loved, and definitely not forgotten. And this is the unimaginable miracle that made me whole. In a few short weeks, I will speak at the memorial services in Dachau for the 70th anniversary of the liberation in Europe. This reality seems more like a dream to me, because leaders from all over the world will gather to hear, among many others, my own words, my own story. Please do everything in your power to keep the same spirit of remembrance alive. Not just on a significant anniversaries, but every day for as long as you live. And pass these stories down to your children, and grandchildren. No work is more necessary and more critical to the survival of human race still struggling against all the same demons and the same hatred. Now you are about to see a documentary film that chronicles a short period during the last days of my imprisonment. German filmmaker Beatrice Zonnhüter has captured the essence of my struggle and the profound healing journey. I have also traveled leading right up to our conversation today. What I am offering to you here is really my life story and my life's wisdom. How to heal impossibly difficult wounds, the path of complicated, but intention is simple. We need to honor each other's truths. If we help others to heal, we also heal ourselves. And no matter what healing and wholeness can be found, just keep in mind, we no longer need to pretend we are all separate. We can indeed face the sometimes brutal but also beautiful greater reality that we are all connected, and freedom from hatred truly is possible. Thank you very much. I want to thank very much my dear friend Marc Bonagura. I have been in touch with this man for I don't know how many years, and I feel he's my big kid brother. We have done tremendous amount of things together, and I'm really, really grateful to him. My journey, he has been following my journey all over, and I make sure wherever I am, I call him and I tell him what is going on. I don't have to tell you, these next several months, I'm leaving on April 16 to Germany. I am immediately going to be approximately in eight schools, and I'm going to have, I believe, three schools every day. And my very first one after leaving Dachau is going to be at the Anna Frank High School in Frankfurt am Main, where the American Consul General is hosting a beautiful event. And I'm really looking forward. And I'm hoping that our good friend, Consul General from Hungary, will be able to arrange something in my former small village, where the small village today is already a city. And I would very much like to see some people who will recall me as a young kid. So this is something I would like to look forward to.
Okay, so now we're just going to see a short film that was made about Leslie in Germany, and then we'll take your questions. So don't forget your questions. We really want to hear what you have to say.